A year ago, we started looking at funding to support hiring a youth outreach coordinator. And we're very indebted to the Trottier Foundation for supporting us. And with this grant, we hired our next speaker, who since last October has been acting as our youth outreach coordinator in our office in Toronto. And if she doesn't get very excited about things, so if she, it's not that she is really sad that her cat died or anything like that. It's just the way she is all the time. Jenna is a real treasure, and we all think she's doing such a great job, and she's just going to share what she's been doing over the last few months and maybe what's in store. She organized everything next door with some the education committee and Kirsten Vanstone and some young volunteers and part of her committee, but she'll tell you all about that. Jenna.
Okay,
Calm down.
I got to start off being grumpy. I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Randy, for introducing me. And thank you all for being here. I see so many absolutely wonderful people, and thank you guys so much for being part of this organization, because you've all been so supportive and wonderful and awesome. I'm going to start off, and yes, if you guys have any interest in seeing any outreach, like hands-on stuff that we've been working on, that's all over in Very Hall, and I will make you all go to that very shortly. But I'm going to introduce myself first. Many of you already know me. I'll start off with where I started, which was not in space, so please don't get too mad. I started in marine biology at a very young age, and I was always really interested in the oceans. Since I was a kid, I always had my hands elbow deep in touch tanks, and I went off to school. When I went to university, I went to Mount Allison University in New Brunswick, had a lovely time there, and I decided to study marine biology, so that's what I did. And I got to do some really cool stuff. I got to go diving and do research underwater, and I loved it. And I don't want to say that I ever made up data, but I was not a good scientist. And so I opted out of that world in terms of the actual doing science. Really, what I liked to do was talk to people about it and to go underwater and do cool stuff. But I wasn't particularly good at the stats or the math or any of the stuff that actually makes it science. And so I went off to the UK after that and did a degree in science communication, where I got to work with a couple really cool organizations. I worked with the Edinburgh Zoo, so that's where the otters come into play. We got to do some interpretive work for them. And I also got to work with a neuroscience organization, where I did a film on the work of neuroscience in Edinburgh, and we paralleled it with the passing of the day. So we started with early life disorders in the morning, and then in the afternoon we went into midlife disorders, and at the end of the day, as the day progressed, we went into end life disorders. Lots of fun, gave me lots of experience talking about different kinds of science, which was great, because I was used to marine biology, but I was not used to the other stuff. And then I got really sad that Edinburgh didn't have any snow, and that it didn't have any hockey, and that the hockey that they did have was really lame. And so I came back to Canada, because I like it here, and I started working at the Science Centre in Toronto here. And I loved that. That was one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. I got to do awesome stuff, like light things on fire in front of hundreds of people. And that's always good. And that was actually where I met the RASC for the first time. I got to meet Toronto Centre while taking our pet snake out to Solar Observe. And we had a lovely time. Yeah, that's Henry. He's 11 years old. He's a ball python. So I fell in love with the RASC when I was out with them. I met Peter there. Peter was wonderful. Hey. And I met a bunch of other volunteers. I absolutely love the organization and the people that made it up. And the volunteers, you guys are incredible, the amount of passion and dedication you have and doing what you do. And then when I saw the job posting, I applied, and Randy liked me for some reason, I don't know. And I came to the RASC. And since coming here, I've had lots of fun. That is when I got to go to the DDO and go inside the telescope. That was cool. I got to do some video stuff for the lunar eclipse. I also got to go to Houston and go to a conference about space exploration for space exploration educators. And I got some really great ideas from that, one of which we're going to enact here. And finally, we've got to put together the youth committee, of which there are at least 4 people, possibly 6 in the room. You guys raise your hands. Hi, friends. Hello, everybody. So we've got a youth committee together. We've got a really great spread of ages. They're super wonderful people. They've been helping with the outreach all day, so thank you guys for that. We started that in December, and we're going to be opening up spots again in this coming December. So if you have anybody who's interested in outreach, we've got a couple people in Halifax. We've got someone in Montreal who's interested. If you have any names, feel free to let me know, and we'll be opening those up come December. But on to what has actually been going on. So right now, what I did when I first got here was I wanted to actually put numbers. I said that I don't like data and stats, but I really wanted to put numbers to what we do in terms of outreach here. So the first thing I did was a bunch of research on what we actually do. I called a bunch of centers and I talked to many of you about what was going on at your centers. And I got a couple big bits of information back, one of which was this one I got recently from Halifax Center. Doing outreach doesn't necessarily translate to youth memberships, which I found out we learned in the International Year of Astronomy when we did a whole bunch of outreach and we didn't gain any youth members. So that's a big important piece of information that we learned from our past. And in general, there's a lot of stuff that we can do to encourage youth members to stay. Our current offerings for youth membership are exactly the same as the adult membership. So that's another big possible issue there because adults have different needs than youth. Not that surprising. So the first research I did was to see how many youth we actually have in the organization. We're sitting below 10%, and you can see all the centers up there where they sit along that spectrum. Bearing that in mind, if you look to your left and right, there are not that many youth here, and the most youth here, there's two I know of, because we've been hanging out all weekend, who are not on the youth committee, but the rest of the youth in here, I'm pretty sure, are on the youth committee. So we've got a bit of an issue with that. This is another bit of research I did back in February or so. I sent a spreadsheet around to all the centers to fill out what they do, because I did want to get a good idea of what's actually offered at all the centers. It's not quite complete. Some of this was my guesses. Some of this was pulled from the website, but we have a good idea of it. And as you can see, there are quite a few people. Does this have a laser? It's on the wrong side. There it is. So you can see there's quite a few people who are interested in introductory level meetings, which is good for youth and in general new members, and also a good number of people who are interested in youth specific programming. Let's see if I got the direction right. Yes, okay. Finally, for those of you who report events, thank you so much. Ian Wheelband has been pushing this too. We have an event reporting form online. This is the data from 2018. So first of all, this is, again, incomplete. We don't technically have Toronto's data in here. With Toronto's data, we're at about 90,000 people that we've interacted with in terms of number of participants. So they're an extra 20,500, I believe. The most important thing on this, I would say, is the number of volunteer hours. If you do the math on that, that is 3.5 years of volunteer hours in 1 year, in 2018. So congratulations to you guys. And that's not even complete. So that's incredible. That is a lot of time. And that's also extremely valuable, because if you count that as, let's say we're paying you guys, let's say we were paying you guys to do this. So let's say we're gonna pay you $15 an hour, $18 an hour. That's a lot of money that would be spent on paying people to do this. So the fact that we're doing this for free and that you guys are doing this for free is extremely valuable in essentially what is an economic sense to us. This is a complete estimate here in terms of the number of youth that we've reached. All of these are guesses based on more or less what these events are and what I've heard from centers in terms of number of youth participants. I have since added a section for number of youth engaged for this year. So hopefully we'll have a little bit more of a better idea of how we've changed coming into 2019. So I also looked at the benefits. I sent out some of you guys might have actually, I know some of you filled it out, a form saying, what do you guys actually want? What do youth members want? What do they need? What do they not like? What do they like? Do you use the Observer's Handbook? All that good stuff. So that'll help advise us on what we're gonna be doing next. And I've also been going into classrooms, and I've have some surveys from what non-members would be interested in. So all this is going to eventually lead to what we're actually doing. And what I've done so far, I'm going to give you a little overview of things that have happened so far. This is something that happened. It was really cool. It was a very last-minute thing. I had Tarot PR email me and say, hey, we've got free tickets to Apollo 11. Do you want them? And I was like, yeah, sure, great, let's try to give them away. And with the help of Marina and Meredith from Vancouver, They gave them away in Vancouver, I gave them away here. We had all those centers participate in giving them away too. So again, kudos to you guys for being flexible, because that happened in the span of a week, which was great. So we got it done really quickly. And we got lots of people going to see the movie, which was fantastic. And a lot of people, younger people who couldn't necessarily afford to go see the movie, get to go see it, which is great. So this was one of the first things that people recommended when I called them, which was one of the problems that we have in general is talking to each other. There's a lot of disconnects in a lot of places. So when I was calling all the centers and I was like, what do you guys want? They were one of the first things, they were like, we want to know what everybody else is doing, because we don't, and we don't know who to talk to find out. So my first idea was, well, let's get a forum together. Let's put together something like a wiki or a Slack page where we can all talk to each other and we can all share our outreach documents, all that good stuff. So that didn't happen. I thought it was a good idea. We have not made progress with that, unfortunately. The youth committee has something that's running right now, which is working pretty well. So it's an option for the future. But for now, what we're doing to solve this problem right now is we are starting a Google Drive where we are going to upload everyone who wants to participate, everyone's outreach documents. So that's going to be in one spot. It's going to be a living thing because it is a Google Drive, so you can upload, delete, and renew as you wish. It's not printed, where you can go and you can find outreach stuff to do. You can find activities, you can share with teachers, all that good stuff. I've got a bunch of stuff that I'm going to upload myself. If anybody would like to, I will send out that link after the GA. And then hopefully, well, that's a good start. We have somewhere to go for resources. So for example, if one center wanted to start a youth committee, they can go to Calgary, or they can go to Saskatoon, and they can say, hey, what kind of stuff do you do for this? Can you upload what you do into the drive, and can I take a look at it? So it's a start. We're going to see how that goes. When looking at what to do with the future, we had a couple different people recommending a couple different things. For the youth committee, one of the ways we want to engage more youth, we have a couple things that we have on our list. So center-wise, it kind of splits into center and national. So center-wise, things like having youth members write in the newsletters, having youth members run Instagram accounts, having youth members present at meetings, just getting a representation of youth members is really important. So if you guys are interested in this will be in the outreach workshop tomorrow. Marina Meredith and Haley are going to come in and talk about how they run their Instagram account in Vancouver. They do a really good job of running it with 3 people, and that started since the youth committee has started, so you guys are doing a great job. And in general, I mean, one of the things that you can do is if you have people submitting for calendars, change the little disclaimer and say, if you submit, then you're willing to put it on the internet. And then that's a way to get posts for Instagram. So that's all center level stuff. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, definitely come to the youth workshop that's going on tomorrow from 2:30 to 3:30. We're going to be talking a lot more about that stuff. And nationally, first of all, my big thing is I really want to improve or add to the youth member benefits. Whether that be, one of the things that we've talked about is starting a youth club that's online, because there's not always enough youth at each center to have one. So having something where you can go along. Chris Curran, we talked about this, about having live streaming just for that club, having events like that. So that's one of our ideas. We are thinking about, the GA has been practiced for this, and I'm not sure if I feel confident about it anymore. But we're thinking about having a youth event in September that links up with Science Literacy Week, where youth get to be completely in charge. So they get to plan their event, they get to bring in the people that they want to bring in, they get to bring in their own speakers, they get to choose where the venue is, and it's for other youth. So no one knows what youth want more than themselves. So I don't want to be the one showing up and being like, I know what youth want. I want to make sure that youth members actually get the voice. And I think that's very valuable. We've also started on, this was a suggestion from Niagara Center, so it was Adam Fletcher who suggested this, having a list of youth-approved speakers, which means just people who are interesting and good for beginners and, like, you know, not super dry, as I am being right now. I swear I'm more interesting if you come to the outreach thing. And so we've got that going. We've got youth members on updating our list as we go along, and we hear interesting speakers. And then if you were attending the robotic telescope thing, who was at the robotic telescope thing talk a few minutes ago? So you already heard my name mentioned there, and now I'm going to mention Paul's name. We actually got the youth members, the youth committee, a tour on the telescope, and the next step on that front is for me to edit that footage, together into about a 10-15 minute presentation, and that they're going to have the option to take that back to their centers, show it, talk about it, show it what it does, or take it into their schools, and then we can get schools involved in taking photos and using the telescope for actual science. I've already got one school that is desperately interested in that, so we're going to give that a try soon. And we have also tried it on social media, and it's it's working okay. We need to work out the kinks on it. It's all sort of a trial. So the biggest challenges to all this, I know it's not, I can stand up here and say, this is all really good to do this stuff, but there's some really big challenges. First is, not every center is 800 people big. Not every center has the skills of every other center. Maybe in Calgary you can run a youth group. Maybe you have someone who's dedicated enough, like Doug Thorpe, to do that, but maybe you don't have that at your center. So as much as there's good practices out there, it's very much choose your strengths and focus on that. As long as you have people who care about this stuff, that's what really matters, and care enough to bring youth in. That's a big thing. Of course, there's physical limitations. So centers, you guys, some of you guys are quite far away from town, some of you are not. Some of you guys have, late meetings, some don't. Halifax has been doing a great job with having meetings in the middle of the day on a Saturday, which is a time that a lot of youth members can come, which is great. There's, I know in New Brunswick you've got 3 cities, which makes it tricky to move around. So there's definitely physical limitations as well. And as I said, this is the big one. Talking to each other and talking to everyone, getting communications around is pretty tricky. I am doing my best to work on that. So at any point, if any of you guys want to talk or you need to find someone from another center to talk about stuff, for now, at least I can serve as that person. So please contact me and let me know if that's something that you want to do. And then once we get going with hopefully the resource, the Google Drive, that'll be a start. If we eventually get to forums, then hopefully that will take off on its own and you won't need me anymore. But if there's something that you really like at a center, holler and I will connect you to the right people. So for us, the next things that are on my list of stuff to do with the time that I have left is we are going to update the youth membership benefits to something that's a little bit more interesting. So one of the things that we're working on is a patch design contest. This is a little selfish because I really like mission patches and I want more of them. So I convinced the youth committee that this was a good idea. And so we're going to have a patch design contest. We're going to change it every year, so it's a reason for people to come back and collect something that changes every year. Easy start. We'll work on something a little bit more firm as we get going. We filmed a video series, John Reed and I. Thanks, John. We filmed a video series out in Halifax. Once the GO is over, I'll get to editing that, and that'll be coming out over the summer. So that's an introductory astronomy series that'll be happening. Chris Kerwin features prominently in that as well. And then finally, lately, I've been in talks with Ontario Parks, and hopefully we're hoping to move this to Parks Canada as well. But right now, the focus is with Ontario Parks to form a bit more of an official partnership and help them achieve their goals of increasing visitorship to their parks and getting some more dark sky preserves, and help us achieve our goals by getting people eyes to the telescope and getting people outside in areas that have facilities that can support our hobbies. So places that have driveways and electricity and hopefully good lighting, like in Killarney Provincial Park. So Linda Pelaya has been we've been chatting about this because Linda has been working a lot with a lot of parks, and I don't think I can even list them all, like Grundy and Killarney and Kilbear, and now I'm running out, but there's like 8. Yeah. So there's lots. So what's that? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Again, my Ontario geography is just not great. So working with Ontario Parks, and I'm talking with Mike Mastronardi down in Windsor about ways that we can push forward with Parks Canada as well. I just really like the Parks organization, and I think it's really important that people, especially people in Toronto and in cities where you don't get to see the night sky, get out and somewhere dark to actually see stuff. So in terms of what's happening right now, so that I can advertise for this later, we are running a youth committee workshop from 2:30 to 3:30 in the room next door tomorrow, and then the outreach workshop here. If you're interested, at the youth committee workshop, what we're going to be doing is splitting up into discussion groups, essentially having a dialogue. The youth committee members are going to split up between the tables and help facilitate those discussions. So if you have input that you want to add, if you want to talk about this stuff, by all means come along to that. And the outreach workshop, we're going to be doing sort of a best practices in outreach setup. So again, if you're interested in seeing what other centers are doing, we're going to have people there to talk about some of the cool stuff they're doing at their various centers. But for now, I'm going to take a bunch of questions because I'm always happy to answer questions. If you want to get in touch with me, first of all, I can give you out my business cards, or if you would like, you can just take a photo of this, and that will get you to me. For now, can I take any of your questions? But, well, for now, thank you so much for having me. And now I can get Randy. What's that?
Are you serious? No questions?
Yeah, do we have time?